Someone wanted to lose weight quickly, safely, drastically. What would they severely eliminate? The carbs. Someone wanted to conquer cancer. What would they quite drastically drop? The carbs. Someone wanted to conquer their diabetes. What would they drop? The carbs.
Dr. Barbara O'Neill, a naturopath and health educator, believes nature has powerful secrets for maintaining health and energy. She advocates for using food as a natural and effective disease treatment, emphasizing a holistic approach to health. She recently revealed a weight loss discovery that not only helps people lose weight, but also treats weight-related illnesses.
Inquiry always is why. And so the first thing I'm going to look at, and there are a few factors that come together to cause this, and that number one is the food that we're eating. When we looked at the liver, we looked at this. And this morning when we looked at diabetes, we looked at this. So we're going to look at it again in relation to weight. And it's the high carbohydrate diet that many people are eating today. I'm still mastering the art of saying one thing and writing another. So bread is very common. Cereal, there's a whole aisle devoted to cereal. And many people having bread and cereal for breakfast, by mid-morning they're wanting something else, so they reach for, and we're just going to say cakes, etc., because if we say everything, there's not enough room on the board for it. When you go into muffins and croissants and donuts and pasties and pies and pastries, etc., etc., etc. So we're just going to put etc. Also, pasta. I'm a fifth generation Australian Scottish descent. I didn't know what pasta and pizza was till I was about 18. So what did I grow up with? Sausages or chops, mashed potatoes, frozen peas or beans every single night of the week, except for Sunday when Mum would do a roast lamb. And everyone I knew ate like that. Our relatives ate like that, the neighbours ate like that. As a fifth generation Australian, I grew up in a little Presbyterian church. Everyone in the church ate like that. I came to the conclusion as a child that everyone in the whole world ate like that, but it's not quite true, is it? And when I was about 16, I had a boyfriend who was about 19, and he had a friend who was a vegetarian. I'd never heard of such a thing. Had never even heard of brown bread. So this was real traditional Australian. Rice, I'd never had rice. I don't think I went to a Chinese restaurant till I was about 18, and that's the first time I ate rice. Potatoes, well, we ate potatoes every meal. And last and certainly least in nutritive value is the pure crystallised acid extracted from the sugarcane.
Carbohydrates, including bread, cereals, pasta, pizza, rice, potatoes, and sugar, are converted into glucose through a multi-step process in the mouth and digestive system. The small intestine is the primary site for carbohydrate digestion, where pancreatic amylase breaks down carbohydrates into smaller molecules for energy production.
When we eat the carbohydrates, they're broken down to glucose. The first place the glucose is sent is to the cell. The second place it is sent, because only so much can go through the energy cycles, then it is stored as glycogen. We looked at this morning and how that's particularly useful for the diabetic, having these little, well, it's useful for everyone because they're little molecules of glucose sitting in the muscle cell. And that's why the best place to, or the best time to exercise is early morning. Because in early morning, when you're starting to move, some people say, well, how are we going to get fuel to actually exercise? It's your glycogen stores already sitting in your muscle cell. And when the cell needs it, it's plucked and it's released. Amazing process. But on the high carbohydrate diet, and this is what a lot of people don't realise, especially when people go on a weight loss diet and stop all the fat, yeah? Fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free, fat-free, fat-free. And yet what are they eating? Lots of carbohydrates. Do you know fat gives the feeling of satiation or satisfaction? And the best weight loss diet is a diet that stops your hunger. And fat stops the hunger. So what's happening on this high carbohydrate diet? People have eliminated the fat and they're eating lots and lots and lots of this, not realising that that excess glucose, once we've filled up the energy cycle, we've filled up the glycogen stores, and so now the body sends it to the fat cells. And on this high carbohydrate diet, what's happening to Americans and Australians? They're getting bigger and bigger.
Consuming a high carbohydrate diet results in excess glucose stored in the liver and muscles as glycogen or fat, which accumulates in various organs. Sugar and hybridized wheat in pasta, pizza, bread, and cereals spike blood sugar levels rapidly, leading to the accumulation of visceral fat on the belly.
So if someone wanted to lose weight, what would be the best fat for them to eat? It's hard to say, isn't it? Because we've been so brainwashed against coconut oil. In fact, the body burns it. It's like the Australian farmer. He got a whole lot of coconuts cheap, so he thought he'd fatten up his cows. Well, his cows lost fat, put on muscle, and started bounding round the paddocks. Do you say paddocks? Fields. So if you want to lose fat and put on muscle and start bounding round Bermuda's mountains, what do you eat? Coconut. Knowledge is easy to him that understands, is that right? Yeah. Another way that you can boost hydrochloric acid production is the juice of a lemon in a little bit, with a little bit of boiling water on it. The heat in the stomach and that lemon, the acid lemon, will boost your digestion. So when you have a salad, squeeze lemon all over it. Fruit salad, squeeze lemon all over it. Lemon is a wonderful digestive aid, but it is also a liver tonic. Do for weight loss is to eat breakfast like a king. I have to admit that I think I eat lunch like a king and breakfast like a queen, but whatever. And sometimes the queen eats as much as the king. Lunch like a queen, and then tea like a pauper, or you call it supper, yeah? I think that when I say tea, you probably think I mean a cup of tea, yeah? But we call an evening meal tea. And as one lady said to me, well, what do paupers eat? I said, sometimes nothing. What many people are doing today, and I see it in many countries I go to, they eat breakfast like the pauper, they eat lunch like the pauper, and the tea or the supper is the king and the queen together. That's like going on a journey, and you start your long journey and you go to the gas station, we call it a petrol station, call it a gas station, and just put a little bit in. And then an hour later put a little bit more in, and then an hour later put a little bit more in, and then you've done this all day, and then you finally get to your destination, you go into the gas station and you fill your tank and then park it in the garage. How much sense does that make? And yet that's what most people are doing. Little bit here, little bit there, little bit there. End of the day, king and the queen together, and the body says,
adding high fiber, protein, and healthy fats to dinner can provide a guilt-free meal without compromising weight loss goals.
What makes you fat? It's the high carbohydrate diet. And there is a doctor that made this very famous. His name's Dr. Robert Atkins. We've all heard of Dr. Robert Atkins. Very interesting story. He was overweight, knew his science, which was what I've just shown. He came up with a theory that if he stopped all carbohydrates, he theorised his body would start to live on his fat stores and he would lose weight. Did it work? Oh yes. His book was #1 on the New York Times best-selling book list 4 years running. Nutritionists and doctors hated him. Someone loved him. Who loved him? The people. And you know why? Because it worked. So what did he eat in his experiment? He knew that his gastrointestinal tract needed fibre. So 3 cups of vegetables a day. And the food with no carbohydrate was meat, butter, cream, cheese, eggs. So he had lots of protein. And in meat, butter, cream, cheese, eggs, he was also getting lots of fat. So what was the result of his experiment? The weight just fell off him. When you're not giving your body these quick-release glucose stores, your liver can convert protein and fat to glucose. Your liver can start to break down the fat stores to give you the glucose that your cells need. It's called gluconeogenesis, that's Genesis, is creating glucose from the fat stores. Was he hungry? Never hungry, because there's three foods that keep the food in the stomach longer. Fibre, because it slowly releases the glucose. Protein, because it's in the stomach that protein gets broken down. Fat, because it coats the food, so it takes a little bit longer to break down. So these are the essential food groups. And what Dr. Atkins showed, and he went into the medical journals and he found confirmation on this, that the non-essential food group is carbohydrates. And how many people are overdoing the non-essential and missing out on the essential?
High carbohydrate diets, often non-essential, are linked to various diseases such as diabetes, dementia, and heart disease.
For weight loss, low carbohydrate, low carb, high fibre, generous protein, and healthy fats. I gave the story this morning when I talked about diabetes of Jim, the guy who was a type 1 diabetic and got off all his medication. And do you remember the weight loss he experienced? Quite phenomenal. And it wasn't just that he was eating breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and tea like a pauper. It wasn't just that he was on a low carbohydrate, high fibre, generous protein and healthy fat diet. It was also the fact that he began to drink more water. He was having 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. And when you start drinking more water, it's also time to start having some whole salt.
Whole salt is a vital mineral that maintains the body's electrolyte balance, facilitating the movement of water and nutrients into cells. It enhances the body's ability to absorb water, thereby promoting proper fluid levels.
But it's the fourth point that I think made a dramatic effect. It all has an effect. And that was the high-intensity interval training. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you inside the cell and show you why the high-intensity interval training is so affected. So this is intervals of high intensity, intervals of recovery, and it's done for a cycle. And Doug McGuff, the heart doctor, he suggests 30 seconds high intensity, 90 seconds recovery for a cycle of 6. There's 15 minutes a day. Sorry, but no excuse. If you haven't got 15 minutes, start to write down how long you're on the computer, how long are you on the phone, how long are you on your iPad. 15 minutes of high-intensity interval training a day will cause a release of the human growth hormone, which will remain active for 24 hours. What a bargain.
High-intensity interval training stimulates the pituitary gland to release human growth hormone, which triggers the release of hormone-sensitive lipase. Lipase breaks down fats, preventing the body from burning glucose as fuel and providing more energy than glucose.
And so number 4 is exercise. Exercise causes a dramatic weight loss. And yet the beauty of implementing this is that as you lose weight, you don't get the saggy, baggy elephant effect.